As well as the standard fair use policy, these videos are protected under the Treaty of Peace and Friendship 1787.
Moors are awake. We are taking our place on this planet.
Islam Moors.
My nationality is Moorish.
Do we really have the right to travel? Do these sovereign citizens actually have a point, or are they just talking nonsense?
Spoiler alert. They're just talking nonsense.
Because over the last couple years, there have been an onslaught of attorneys making YouTube videos, commentaries, etc. that seeks to discredit anyone who's trying to enforce their rights. So in this video, we're just going to break down the right to travel with law. Because they make it seem like so-called sovereign citizens are making up their own goddamn language when they go to court. But that's the purpose of propaganda, to make people seem like they're crazy, when in reality, they're only enforcing a law that's supposed to be upheld anyways. Now, I simply Googled sovereign citizen right to travel, and it's the first thing that popped up. The right to travel is a claim based on a variety of passages, some being more commonly used among groups. Now, let's stop right there, because this is one of the tricks that they do. You see how it says the right to travel is claimed based on a variety of passages? They never cite the passages in which these right to travel claims are being based on. And the reason why is because all of these claims are stemming from case law, which stems from judges. It goes on to say, one common argument from sovereign citizens is that they are traveling and not driving because they are not transporting commercial goods or paying passengers. So now they're trying to make it seem like even though people are making the distinction, they're just making up some nonsense, because the everyday man doesn't know the difference between driving and traveling as it pertains to law.
But let me guess, because you're a Moorish guru, you just so happen to know that difference.
Even though they're telling the truth and breaking down the manner in which these so-called sovereign citizens speak, the tone in which they portray everything is always either condescending or articulated in a manner that makes it seem like what these people are doing is just something silly. Next, we're going to go to this police1.com article. 5 responses to a sovereign citizen at a traffic stop. The sovereign citizen movement has become the bane of many police officers in the U.S. These people, and I got to stop right there. These people is a term that's used to ostracize or separate a people. And this is all verbiage used to create a profile and to group people as something that they're not. Textbook propaganda. So let me continue. These people feel that due to some contrived loopholes in the Constitution, they can declare themselves free and laws do not apply to them. Sorry, I got to stop it again, but they use a trigger word, and the trigger word is loophole. So whenever people figure out how to use the law, they always want to call it a loophole. And so they said some contrived loopholes in the Constitution, right? Well, I have a book here called The Oxford Companion to the Supreme Court of the United States, and let's see what it has to say about the right to travel. So this is under the topic and discussion of right to travel. In 1955, a lower federal court recognized the right to travel as a natural right protected by the Due Process Clause of the Fifth Amendment. So where's the loophole?
There is no loophole. The problem is sovereign citizens such as yourselves and everybody else out there who believe in this nonsense read things like that and take it out of context. The right to travel does not give you the right to drive an automobile. The right to travel just simply means that you can travel from state to state unmolested. It doesn't mean that you have the right to drive an automobile, because in order to drive an automobile, you must have a valid license to do that. That's it. So if you want to use driving an automobile as your means of traveling, you have to have a driver's license. There's no two ways around that. Now, the issue with these sovereign citizens is that they think that they're not driving, that they are just traveling, which is the stupidest thing that I have ever heard. Because in order to travel, you must do a thing. And the thing that these sovereign citizens are doing when being pulled over at a traffic stop is they were driving. That is literally how they were traveling. But for some odd reason, they just don't understand that. And then we have people like you who think that they have superior knowledge of topics like this, and the rest of us have just missed it. So now you're making this video thinking that you're about to explain something that doesn't need explaining.
Now, it may be an unenumerated right, which is rights that are not listed in the Constitution, but nevertheless, it's still a right. And it's protected by the Fifth Amendment, which we just read. But let's continue. These people feel that due to some contrived loopholes in the Constitution, they can declare themselves free and laws do not apply to them. And that part is very misleading as well. However, people who get their legal advice from Wikipedia find out these loopholes don't tend to actually exist. So again, you see how they play with people. They will never cite the actual case citation that these so-called sovereign citizens are using. They will say people are looking up Wikipedia articles in order to get legal advice. This is the shit they're not explaining. Now, I can easily rebut that article point by point, but I don't feel like wasting my time on it anymore. I want to get to this case, Thompson versus Chief of Police, which deals with the right to travel as well, because there's no misconstruing what the courts ruled in this case. The right of a citizen to travel upon the public highways and to transport his property thereon in the ordinary course of life and business is a common right which he has under his right to enjoy life and liberty, to acquire and possess property, and to pursue happiness and safety. It includes, in so doing, to use the ordinary and usual conveyances of the day, and under the existing modes of travel includes the right to drive a horse-drawn carriage or wagon thereon, or to operate an automobile thereon for the usual and ordinary purposes of life and business. It is not a mere privilege like the privilege of moving a house in the street, which this is a privilege because it's moving a house in the street, operating a business stand in the street, so shit like this, or transporting persons or property for hire along the street, Lyft, Uber, etc., which a city may permit or prohibit at will. But when these so-called sovereign citizens are saying that they are traveling and not driving because they are not transporting commercial goods or paying passengers, they are making a distinction between exercising a right which is protected by the Constitution and a limited privilege or benefit that is granted by the state.
It's quite hilarious that this man read all of that and he is clearly misunderstanding what he just read. Now, yes, everyone does have the right to travel, and you do have the right to travel by way of automobile if you choose. But if that is the way that you choose to travel, you have to have a driver's license to do that, unless you are traveling in the passenger side of that vehicle. I just don't understand how people could be so dumb. And this man has the audacity to sit up here on the internet and think that he is breaking something down for us and we should listen to him. Sir, these arguments don't work. We've seen it time and time again. What you are doing is misleading people. This is sad. No one should listen to you.
There's a maxim of law that states if you don't know your rights, you don't have any. But don't try to shit on the people who know the rights and enforcing the rights and try to make them look crazy. Book reference, Maxims of Law. If a person neglect to insist on his rights, he is deemed to have abandoned it. No right is held more sacred or is more carefully guarded by the common law than the right of every individual to the possession and control of his own person, free from all restraint or interference of others, unless by clear or unquestionable authority of law. It is ignorance of the law when we do not know our own rights. Ignorance of those things which one is bound to know excuses not. Ignorance of the law excuses no one, for all are bound to know the law. Do we really have the right to travel and are sovereign citizens full of shit? Part 2. I want to address this comment and build off my previous video because a lot of people got some things misconstrued. Now, this troll is saying that I'm proving myself wrong because I read something out of this book that I'm about to read you, and he specifically held on to the last part, unless by unquestionable authority of law. So, allow me to break that part down. Here's what I read. No right is held more sacred or is more carefully guarded by the common law than the right of every individual to the possession and control of his own person, free from all restraint or interference of others, unless by clear or unquestionable authority of law. Now, here's what you need to understand. Everything in law must be qualified because law is very fucking specific. And everything in the public operates off assumptions, presumption, and color of law. So let's deal with the unquestionable authority. Book reference. Color of authority. That semblance or presumption of authority sustaining the acts of a public officer which is derived from his apparent title to the office or from a writ or other process in his hands, apparently valid and regular. Color of law, the appearance or semblance without the substance of legal right. And all that simply means is that there's a presumption of authority that exists. And since we're indoctrinated into believing that government is above us, it's no wonder why some people don't question authority or law.
Excuse me, sir, but what in the doohickey are you talking about? This is some straight up tomfoolery. You are about to be sending your people straight to jail. You are doing more harm than good.
Now, since the last video was on the topic of the right to travel, I kind of want to get back to that point. Now, when I read you this and break it down, I'm hoping some people have their common sense turned on. Book reference, Forbidden Civics.
And what he doesn't mention here is that the book reference that he's referring to was written by him. So I don't even know why you're referencing this book. You might as well just speak. It makes no sense. How am I supposed to take you serious if you are going to reference yourself? What are you, the source? Give me a freaking break.
One of my favorite case citations that details such acquiescence and regulation of rights is in the Supreme Court case of Aptheker versus Secretary of State, in which the court stated, "Free movement by the citizen is of course as dangerous to a tyrant as free expression of ideas or the right of assembly, and it is therefore controlled in most countries in the interest of security." Now, whenever you start to talk about the right to travel, a lot of people are going to come back with this retort. Well, cars are inherently dangerous. Automobiles are just about inherently dangerous as an unloaded gun. But here's a side note. They've always encroached on the liberties of the people whenever there's a national emergency or security risk, which is why there's literally always a national emergency that's being declared by every president. And there are national emergencies from prior presidents that are still in effect today. So like with 9/11, they came out with the Patriot Act. And Ron Paul schooled everybody on how much freedoms that was actually encroaching upon. And even with COVID, Supreme Court came out and said that these mandates were unconstitutional. So I digress and let me reread that part again. Free movement by the citizen is of course as dangerous to a tyrant as free expression of ideas or the right of assembly, and it is therefore controlled in most countries in the interest of security. Now pay attention to this part. That is why riding boxcars carries extreme penalties in communist lands. That is why the ticketing of people and the use of identification papers are routine matters under totalitarian regimes, yet abhorred in the United States. Which is complete bullshit, because let's talk about the application. Does the ticketing of people and asking the use of identification papers happen every day in the United States? i.e. license and registration? So even though the so-called Supreme Court said it's abhorrent in the United States, we can see from everyday life that this shit happens every day. So does that really mean the United States is actually a totalitarian state?
Sir, I'm not sure if you realize it, but what you just read just debunked your whole argument. So there's no further explanation needed. We don't need your opinion or anything of that nature. Just stop it already. You're wrong. You were just proven wrong. You proved yourself wrong.
Let's look it up. Now, let's go to comparative analysis. The following comparative analysis shows the principal characteristics of the three forms of government. Autocracy. Authority is derived through heredity. People have no choice in the selection of their rulers and no voice in making the laws. Results in arbitrariness, tyranny, and oppression. Attitude towards property is feudalistic. Attitude towards law is that the will of the ruler shall control, regardless of reason or consequence. That's autocracy, and some of these characteristics is what we see in everyday life today. Let's look at democracy. A government of the masses. Authority derived through mass meeting or any other form of direct expression. Results in mobocracy. Attitude towards property is communistic, negating property rights. Attitude towards law is that the will of the majority shall regulate, whether it be based upon deliberation or governed by passion, prejudice, and impulse without restraint or regard to consequences. Here's the meat potatoes. Results in demagogism, license, agitation, discontent, and anarchy. License? You mean like driver's license? Fishing license? License to do business? But let's look up how the government was actually established and how it's supposed to run today. Republic. Authority is derived through the election by the people of public officials best fitted to represent them. Attitude towards property is respect for laws and individual rights and a sensible economic procedure. Attitude towards law is the administration of justice in accord with fixed principles and established evidence and with strict regard to consequences. A greater number of citizens and extent of territory may be brought within its compass. Avoids the dangerous extreme of either tyranny or mobocracy. Results in statesmanship, liberty, reason, justice, contentment, and progress. Is the standard form of government throughout the world. Now, I want to go back to attitude towards property is feudalistic when dealing with autocracies. Because let's look up the definition of feudal. Pertaining to feuds or fees, relating to or growing out of the feudal system or feudal law, having the quality of a feud as distinguished from allodial. And what is allodial? Allodial is defined as free, not holding of any lord or superior, owned without obligation of vassalage or fealty, the opposite of feudal.
Allodial, yes. Another word that you Moorish sovereign citizens love to use. Now, sir, first and foremost, you're all over the place. You are not proving this whole right to travel thing. You're going from one topic to another, and you're not making any solid points to prove what you set out to prove in the beginning of the video. Just stop it already.
Now, did you know that modern property law is built off of feudalistic principles? Pay attention to this definition. Feudal law, the body of jurisprudence relating to feuds. The real property law of the feudal system. The law anciently regulating the property relations of lords and vassals. Today, that's landlord and tenant. And the creation, incidence, and transmission of feudal estates. Now, here's what the expert commentary says. Survivals of the feudal law to the present day so affect and color that branch of jurisprudence as to require a certain knowledge of the feudal law in order to the perfect comprehension of modern tenures and rules of real property law.
Quick question, sir. What does what you just read have to do with proving the right to travel? You see, this is a tactic that you gurus love to do. You just talk and talk and talk and jump from one topic to the next and leave the listener confused. So you're not proving anything. You're all over the place.
And here's under the expert commentary under the definition of feudal system. It formed the entire basis of the real property law of England in the medieval times, and survivals of the system in modern days so modify and color that branch of jurisprudence both in England and America that many of its principles require for their complete understanding a knowledge of the feudal system. The feudal system originated in the relations of a military chieftain and his followers, or king and nobles, or lord and vassals, and especially their relations as determined by the bond established by a grant of land for the former to the latter. So this is why no one truly owns their property in so-called America. Because even when you pay off your mortgage, what do you have to pay? Property taxes. Who do you pay it to? The state. The state is acting as the lord of the land, or landlord. This is contrary to allodial principles. Book reference, Introduction to the Law of Real Property. It would be economical in terms of time and effort if we could begin the study of law of real property by proceeding directly to a consideration of that law as it is in our own day and place.
Sir, I think you forgot what this video was originally supposed to be about, because right now you're reading about property law. Let's not forget that you set out to prove the right to travel. That is what this video is about. So now why are you reading about property law? What are you doing, sir?
Unfortunately, such a shortcut is not practical. A thorough understanding of the modern law is impossible without a knowledge of its historical background, which is based in feudal law or feudal tenures. And again, all that just came from the fact that we read that attitude towards property is feudalistic in an autocracy. So that means if the United States is implementing feudalistic principles, that means it has a mixed autocracy in its government. And license simply means permission, or to do that which without such license would be deemed illegal. And whenever you hear the media use the term sovereign citizen, just know that that term is an oxymoron and it's used as propaganda. Propaganda floods our country from every conceivable source. Active and vociferous agencies have been organized for the express purpose of advancing doctrines absolutely not in accord with the fixed principles of our nation. In the most persistent manner, they seek to tear down rather than build, to destroy rather than improve. One of their most subtly dangerous features is that it is so camouflaged as to make it appear to have an innocent purpose. So when they say these so-called sovereign citizens don't follow the law, that's bullshit. Again, we know sovereign citizen is an oxymoron, a term created by the FBI, so don't get on me in the comments. And here's the last thing I'm going to read from this book, because this is the key issue, which is the ignorance among the people. Ignorance of citizens. Webster said, on the diffusion of education among the people rests the preservation and perpetuity of our free institutions. One of the foundation stones of representative government is education. And we know most people today don't know the federal constitution or their state constitution. An intelligent and informed citizen is an asset to the nation. So think about how many liabilities we actually have. Knowledge concerning the Constitution. For a proper appreciation of our government, the citizen should know what the Constitution is and what it contains. And the right to travel is a fundamental and natural law endowed to us by our Creator and not by any government. So you don't need a license to do what God gave you the right to do.
Now, what this idiot is failing to mention is that there are many different ways to travel where you don't actually need a license. You can walk as a way to travel. You can ride public transportation as a way to travel. You can ride your bike as a way to travel. You can purchase a plane ticket and fly as a way to travel. But if you want to drive as your way, as your means of traveling, you need a license to do that. It's that simple. But there are many other forms and ways you can travel without having a license.
Licenses are for commercial purposes only, and anybody telling you different is simply lying to you. Do we really have the right to travel, and are these sovereign citizens full of shit? Part 3. As a disclaimer, you can't be sovereign and a citizen. It's an oxymoron. It's a made-up term, etc., etc. Now, in this video, I want to address this comment that this guy left me. He said, convenient you leave out the part that not a federally protected right, therefore the states control the laws over the right of movement. And for context, here's what he's talking about. So in my previous video, I went over a Supreme Court case in Virginia that said this about the right to travel. The right of the citizen to travel upon the public highways and to transport his property thereon in an ordinary course of life and business is a common right which he has under his right to enjoy life and liberty and to acquire and possess property and to pursue happiness and safety. Here's the part they conveniently like to skip out. It includes the right in doing so to the ordinary and usual conveyance of the day, and under the existing modes of travel includes the right to drive a horse-drawn carriage or wagon thereon, or to operate an automobile thereon for the usual and ordinary purposes of life and business. But this is the part that they say I conveniently skip, right here. The exercise of such a common right, the city may, under its police power, regulate in the interest of the public safety and welfare. And you can read the rest. They like to bring up this point to prove that there is no such thing as the right to travel in a car or automobile and that the state can regulate this right entirely. But what they never explain, and many of them don't know themselves, is police powers. So allow me to break this down fully. So in this video, we're going to go to Corpus Juris Secundum, Volume 53, dealing with lewdness to lien, and Volume 60, Motions and Orders to Motor Vehicles. Now, before I get into these books, we're going to get into American jurisprudence on the licenses and permits, which you can go find this in your law library. We're going to first talk about the definition and nature of a license. A license is in the nature of a privilege or special privilege, entitling the licensee to do something that he or she would not be entitled to do without the license. Licenses confer no property rights, but are permits issued pursuant to a state's police power. Now, I want you to think about this real quick. Book reference. If God created man and man created government, how can government give man anything of substance or value that man doesn't already innately have if man is the one who gave power to government?
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
So that's literally like your child giving you a privilege or benefit of anything. You would then have to take your superior status and go to the level of a child or below a child in order to receive any privilege or benefit from your own child, which you created.
Sir, what in the doohickey are you talking about? Just stop it already.
Keep that same concept in mind when it comes to licenses. License as privilege. A license conveys to the licensee a personal privilege, sometimes referred to as a special privilege. A license does not confer a vested, permanent, or absolute right. Now let's go on to license fees as taxes. When used in its broad sense, the word taxes may include a license fee. Such fees may be imposed upon an occupation, business, or calling, or the exercise of a privilege. An excise tax, to the extent that it is within a legislature's authority to enact, is a tax imposed upon engaging in an occupation. And occupations are simply businesses. Since governments can only grant benefits and privileges, check this out. Maxims of law. Under the category of benefits and privileges, a benefit is not conferred on one who is unwilling to receive it. That is to say, no one can be compelled to accept a benefit against his consent. It is a rule of the ancient law that all persons have liberty to renounce those privileges which have been conferred for their benefit. Privilege is, as it were, a private law. Even with licensing statutes, you don't have to accept those statutes if you don't want to.
So what Numbskull here just explained is that every citizen individually has the right to pick and choose what laws they want to follow. So if I just jump up one day and decide to murder someone and get arrested, I can just simply say, hey, I don't follow that law. Let me go. This dude right here is an idiot. All he has done and proved by making these videos is that he is in fact a sovereign citizen. That is it. He has not proven the quote-unquote right to travel. But what he has proven is that he is a fool.
Unless you are engaging in business, and here's why. Because the public indeed has rights, but it's under specific powers. And for Congress, it's Article 1, Section 10, Clause 3, which is the Commerce Clause, and for the states, it's the police powers. Power to require license. License charges may be imposed for regulation, or for revenue, keep that in mind, or for both. A state may not impose a charge for the enjoyment of a right granted by the United States Constitution. And this number 2 tells us to go to the footnotes, and that is from the case Murdoch versus Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. And going back to this case, we read, the right of the citizen to travel upon the public highways and to transport his property thereon in the ordinary course of life and business is a common right which he has under his right to enjoy life and liberty, to acquire and possess property, and to pursue happiness and safety. All of those are what's called unalienable rights. But again, you have to respect the public because the public has what's called public rights. Power of Congress, Article 1, Section 8, Clause 3. That's the Commerce Clause. Where Congress possesses the constitutional power to regulate trade or intercourse, it may regulate by means of licenses. And we know licenses are what? Privileges. And so do you have to accept a privilege if you already have the inalienable right to do something? No, you don't. Thus, Congress having the power to regulate commerce with foreign nations and among the several states and with the Indian tribes may provide for granting coasting licenses, licenses to pilot, licenses to trade with Indian tribes, and other licenses necessary or proper for the exercise of that great and extensive power, and the observation is applicable to every other power of Congress, to the exercise of which granting of licenses may be incident. All such licenses may confer authority and give rights to the licensee, which is privileges. Police power, and this is the crux of this whole video because a lot of people don't know what police powers truly are. A state's police power with regard to protection of the health, morals, and welfare of the public includes, by implication, the right to regulate by requiring a license as a prerequisite to carry on certain activities commonly designated as businesses, occupations, professions, vocations, trades, or calling. All of those are synonyms for commerce. This is what licenses are for, and this is what the state can regulate, commerce, under its police powers. States have a compelling interest in the regulation of the practice of professions within their boundaries, and this regulatory power is generally limited to activities carried on within the state and is restricted to those activities and occupations to which the state affords some measures of protection and support. Now let's get into this book. Book reference. Under the subject matter of licenses. License defined. In general, the term license means a right or permission granted by some competent authority to carry on a business or do an act which, without such license, would be illegal. And we know it's not illegal to travel without a license. In other words, it is a formal or official permit or permission to carry on some business or do some act which, without the license, would be unlawful, and the words license and permit are often used synonymously. Going back to my analogy of children, would you listen to your child or get permission from a child to do something that you already have the authority to do since you're the authority figure? It has also been defined as the granting of a special privilege to one or more persons not enjoyed by citizens generally, or at least not by a class to which the licensee belongs. Occupation and privilege defined. The word occupation, as used in connection with the licensing thereof and the imposition of taxes thereon, is identical in meaning with the word privilege and includes any business, trade, profession, pursuit, vocation, or calling. A privilege is the exercise of an occupation or business which requires a license from some proper authority designated by some general law. So for those people who don't believe in the right to travel and you have driver's license, are you getting paid to go to and from the work? By the motor vehicle department, that is. Are you getting paid to go to any store that you may frequent often? So if we can see that license means something that's connected to business activity, why do you need that license if you're not doing any business activity? That's the distinguishing factor behind this whole right to travel versus driving.
Sir, what in the doohickey are you talking about? You are one confused Moorish sovereign citizen. Sir, if you want to travel by way of operating a motor vehicle, you need a license to do that. If you want to travel by way of walking, you do not need a license to do that. If you want to travel by taking public transportation, you do not need a license to do that. How is this so hard for you to grasp? If you want to travel by way of operating a motor vehicle, you need a license to do that. It is not a hard concept to understand. There are many ways of traveling, but if you want to travel by way of operating a motor vehicle, then you need a license to do that. Now, if you want to travel by way of being a passenger in a motor vehicle, then you don't need a license to do that. I just don't understand how people could just be so dumb.
As I'm reading these legal sources, it gives a clear distinction between what a privilege is and what a right is. And we know licenses are synonymous with privileges or permits, nature and object of a license. So this is what a license is really for. In general, a license is a means of regulating and taxing privileges and occupations and the use and disposal of property. A license is not a contract or obligation between an authority, federal, state, or municipal granting it and the person to whom it is granted. A license is a creature of statute. So let me reiterate. God created man, man created government. Governments enact statutes. Licenses are creatures of government. So what the fuck does that have to do with man? Unless man devolves himself all the way into a person, citizen, or resident of this entity. The derivative power cannot be greater than the original from which it is derived. So again, a license is a creature of statute, and the rights of the licensee are only as the statute confers. Power to license or tax occupations and privileges. The state or government possesses the power to impose a requirement of a license or a fee or tax thereon for the privilege of pursuing a vocation or business. This power is generally included in the power to tax for revenue. So let's go back to this term revenue. So I live in Oklahoma, so I'm going to go to Title 68, Revenue and Taxation. State licenses, collection of income taxes, notification definitions. State license means a license, certificate, registration, permit, approval, or other similar document issued by a licensing entity to an individual or business, a right or privilege to engage in a profession, occupation, or business in this state. So clearly, driver's licenses are for commercial purposes only.
Hey, genius. If driver's licenses are for commercial purposes only, why is there a difference between a commercial driver's license, which is a CDL, and a regular driver's license? Please answer that question.
You have the right to travel in an automobile or the usual conveyance of the day. Under the police powers, the state can regulate business activity and business activity only, not your inalienable rights protected by the Constitution. And if you want to learn more about your rights, go ahead and grab this book, International Lodium Rights to Travel. Sovereign Citizens and the Right to Travel, Part 4. Before I go any further, let me do my disclaimer. The term sovereign citizen doesn't really exist in law. There's no such thing as a sovereign citizen. Sovereign citizen is an oxymoron. The term sovereign citizen was coined by the FBI to discredit and slander any individual who dares stand up and enforce their constitutionally protected rights. Now, let's address this comment, because I was honestly waiting for this comment. Because anytime anyone talks about the right to travel, these same rebuttals are always used. And these same rebuttals are very easy to break down with the law. This guy stated, all this means, talking about the right to travel, is that you are free to move between and within states. It, the right to travel, has nothing to do with the state's power to enact binding traffic laws. Now, I agree with the fact that the state have the power to enact binding traffic laws. However, those certain binding traffic laws apply to certain classes of persons, which is always defined in legislative statutes. The whole right to travel argument is centered on the fact that one is dealing with a constitutionally protected liberty versus commercial activity. People like this are always trying to cover up the fact that your constitutionally protected liberty is superseded by traffic laws, which the United States Supreme Court and other courts throughout this whole country have always reiterated the fact that there's a distinguishing factor between driving, which is commercial activity, and the right to travel, which is a pre-existing unenumerated right. And unenumerated rights are rights that are simply not listed in the Constitution. So just because the right isn't mentioned in the Constitution doesn't mean that that right doesn't exist.
Now, what this Moorish sovereign citizen clearly doesn't understand about the right to travel is that how you are actually doing the traveling is what comes into question. Now, if the way you are traveling is by walking, then yes, you have the right to travel without needing a license to do so. But if how you are traveling is operating a motor vehicle, then you need a valid driver's license to do that. The driving part is literally how you are traveling. People don't just travel. You have to engage in an act to actually travel. Now, if you are riding your bicycle, then the act that you are engaging in to do the actual traveling is riding the bike. You are pedaling the bike, and that is literally how you are traveling. Now, in the case of driving a motor vehicle, the driving the motor vehicle part is literally how you are doing the traveling. You have to engage in an act to actually travel. People don't just travel. The arguments that these sovereign citizens love to make is so elementary. It's just crazy that someone like this makes videos and would like to believe that he's smart and he has stumbled onto something that the rest of the world hasn't figured out. It's absurd.
First, we're going to go to the 1995 Supreme Court case, United States versus Lopez, because we're going to go from what judges say and not what I say or anybody else. We're sticking strictly to law. The Constitution delegates to Congress the power to regulate commerce with foreign nations and among the several states and with the Indian tribes. Article 1, Section 8, Clause 3. The court, through Chief Justice Marshall, first defined the nature of Congress's commerce power in Gibbons versus Ogden. Check out this first sentence. Commerce undoubtedly is traffic. Whenever states are talking about traffic laws, they are talking about commercial laws regulating commercial activity, aka driving, which is why you have to have a driver's license if you're going to be doing commercial activity that pertains to driving. Definition and nature of license, and this is coming from American jurisprudence, so again, we're sticking with the law. A license is in the nature of a privilege or special privilege entitling the licensee to do something that he or she would not be entitled to do without the license. As I stated, the right to travel is a pre-existing right that existed before the Constitution was even adopted.
But the right to drive isn't a pre-existing right that existed before the Constitution was even adopted. I don't know if you're aware, buddy, but when the Constitution was written, cars weren't even invented yet. So any mention of a right to travel in the Constitution couldn't possibly be referring to someone's right to drive as a means of traveling.
Licenses confer no property right, but are permits issued pursuant to a state's police power. Now we got to break down again the state's police powers. And the state police power is not about the boys in blue. Because I know when most people hear police, they're thinking about the cops and the everyday people that they see giving people tickets. But moving on, let's talk about the power to require a license. License charges may be imposed for regulation or for revenue or for both. A state may not impose a charge for the enjoyment of a right granted by the United States Constitution. That is from Murdoch versus Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, or Murdoch versus Pennsylvania as people commonly know it. Now, we know the Constitution doesn't grant you rights. However, it stated there clearly that a state may not impose a charge for a right that you have already. A state's police power with regard to protection of the health, morals, and welfare of the public includes, by implication, the right to regulate by requiring a license as a prerequisite to the carrying on of certain activities commonly designated as businesses, occupations, professions, vocations, trades, or callings, also known as commerce, which is also known as traffic. So let's look up the definition of traffic. Book reference. Traffic, commerce, trade, sale, or exchange of merchandise, bills, money, and the like. So again, we see that traffic is synonymous with the word commerce or trade, which is businesses. Trade, the act or business of exchanging commodities by barter, or the business of buying and selling for money. Traffic, barter. But let's go back to this case because they also give definition of the word commerce and traffic. At the time the original Constitution was ratified, commerce consisted of selling, buying, and bartering, as well as transporting for these purposes. Defining commerce as intercourse, exchange of one thing for another, interchanges of anything, trade, traffic. A Universal Etymology Dictionary, 26th edition, 1789, commerce is defined as trade or traffic. The Sheridan's Dictionary, a complete dictionary of the English language, 6th edition, 1796, defines commerce as exchange of one thing for another, trade, traffic. Now you definitely have to see and notice and realize that commerce and traffic are synonymous. So whenever you see traffic laws, you now have to think commercial laws. And so now you have to understand that they are regulating a commercial activity, and you can't even try to dispute it anymore because it's right there. So again, this is why people have to get licenses and permits. And I'm going to read this one more time because I got to connect it with something in my state, and every other state has it as well. A state's police power with regard to protection of the health, morals, and welfare of the public includes, by implication, the right to regulate by requiring a license as a prerequisite to the carrying on of certain activities commonly designated as businesses, occupations, professions, vocations, trades, or callings. States have a compelling interest in the regulation of the practices of professions within their boundaries, and this regulatory power, administrative power, is generally limited to activities carried on within the state, and is restricted to those activities and occupations to which a state affords some measure of protection and support. So under Oklahoma statutes, under Title 68, which is revenue and taxation, revenue meaning business revenue, 68-238.1, state licenses, collection of income taxes, notification definitions. A state license means a license, certificate, registration, permit, approval, or other similar document issued by a licensing entity granting to an individual or business a right or privilege to engage in a profession, occupation, business in this state. Businesses, occupations, professions, vocations, trades, or callings. So all this proves that licenses are for commercial activities, and people have the right to travel, which is why some people choose not to get licenses or trying to get rid of their license. And if you got all the way to this point in this video, I'm gonna definitely need you to share this, because this is the information that people need in order to rebut the claims that we need licenses. Peace and love.
In this 4-part series, all this Moorish sovereign citizen effectively did was prove that he is in fact a sovereign citizen. Now, let's watch a prime example of what would actually happen if you took any of this nonsense that this man just taught in this video and tried to apply it at a traffic stop.
Hold on a sec. It's in there.
Where's it at? I don't see it. I need a license. That's not a license.
It's in there, man. Have your name and badge number?
Oh. Yeah, my name's Officer Schneider. I'm badge 231, sir. I need your license, okay?
Excuse me.
My name's Officer Schneider. I'm badge 231. I need your license.
Is this?
257.
Is there a recording made of this counter? Is there a recording made of this counter?
Sir, need your license, okay?
Yeah, I'm showing you a license. He has it.
That's not a license.
He has it.
What
That's
is that?
He has it.
Sorry?
He has it.
What all is that?
May I speak for the record? May I have your name and badge number? We need to pray.
Where's your license at, bud? You got your name and stuff in there or what?
Yeah,
It's got all your name? Where's it?
yeah.
Here?
Everything's in there.
Sir, upon the request of a police officer in the state of Michigan, sir, you must present a
Is
valid
there an emergency? How can I help?
otherwise you're in violation of the law. Do you understand that?
Are you familiar with Article United States Code 12 is a section 241 and 242?
All right, stand by for a second, sir, okay?
You have a driver's license.
I already have it. I already showed it to you.
You have a Michigan driver's license.
I already showed it to you.
Where's it at?
Do you have the paper? I gave you the papers.
Put the camera down.
For Grand Theft Auto.
Sir,
Grand Theft Auto.
we're ordering you to get out of the
Grand
vehicle.
Theft Auto.
License. Upon the request from a police officer, you must step out of the vehicle.
You want me to get out? No, no, don't get out.
Do you understand me? Step out of the car, put your camera down. Sir, once again,
I am not for hire.
Ordered by
For the record, I am operating in a not for hire capacity
I'm giving you 30
for,
seconds.
by engaging in any form of transportation. No, don't
I'm
get out.
giving you 30 seconds. And I'm
I have showed you my ID.
Can I get out?
No, don't get out. Don't get out. Don't get out.
Want me to get out?
Don't get out. Don't get out.
Let's go.
Here.
This is not an ID. That is an identity card that doesn't mean nothing. Step out of the car.
Breaking and entering. Breaking and entering. Breaking and entering.
All right, sir, you've been warned.
No! Don't break my window! 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 Breaking and entering! Breaking and entering! Grand Theft Auto! Grand Theft Auto!
Open it up now.
Grand Theft Auto!
Open it up.
Grand Theft Auto! Grand Theft Auto! Grand Theft Auto! Don't break my no! No! Don't break my window! Yes, sir!
Put the camera down. Put the camera down.
Look at this door. Pull his ass out. Pull his ass out. Amar, get over there.
To just kind of work into my own creative mood and escape the
Stay up there.
first crying baby husband kind of thing. So I use Hobby Lobby as more of my creative escape. They have furniture there. I mean, isn't that wild?
Hey,
You go
behind
in
the
there,
back,
they have
no.
everything. So it's just, I love that store. You don't understand. I do. I'm a huge fan.
Now, after going through an ordeal like that, someone like Herbie Herb would have called his guru, which could have possibly been this guy right here. And you know what the guru would have probably told Herbert? He would have probably said, hey, Herbie Herb, you didn't do something right. You must study a little harder. And you know what? Herbert probably said, you know what? You're right. Because I know what you taught me in that YouTube video was right and correct. So I'm going to study a little harder. And next time I get pulled over, I'm going to invoke my right to travel. And you know what happened? Herbert got pulled over again and invoked his right to travel. And here's how that turned out.
What can I do for you? How can I help?
plate's not valid.
My nationality is Moorish.
And there's
Okay.
great savings on much more. Be sure to visit
Can I
our
see your
website at
paperwork for the vehicle?
weekendsnursery.com. Remember, for the best quality, selection, value, and service, buy direct from your nursery. Ray Wiggins Nursery, since 1941. In Macomb Township, on Romeo Plank Road, we are worth the drive.
I have a Moorish national license.
What does that have to do with,
Here you go.
95% confident I didn't just send that angry email about my boss to my boss. Johnson, get in here.
what does this have to do with, you not having a driver's license in the state of Michigan?
My nationality is Moorish. I've already been through this at 30.
With Greater Detroit's preferred HR and payroll provider.
So what is
Paycor. Visit
what does that mean?
paycorradio.com.
Here you go.
Our customers work hard for their money. And we respect that.
And where did you get
That's why
this?
at Meyer, on top of our
My nationality is Moorish.
Okay. Well, you still have to have a Michigan driver's license to drive here in the state of Michigan. You don't have that with you?
My right is to travel. I have the right to travel.
You have the right to travel. Everybody has the right to travel, but you also have to have, by Michigan state law, a driver's license. Do you have that, sir?
May I have your name and badge number?
Yes, it's Corporal Kosaski.
And what is the emergency? How can I help?
Okay, first of all, you have to listen to what I'm saying, okay?
I have given you my papers.
I'm in control here, not you.
I have
First
given
of
you
all,
my papers.
I just want to fast.
Those papers don't mean anything.
Yes, they do.
For all of our stuff,
Okay.
whenever we need it.
How about we settle this in court
You need
again?
to listen to me. Put your car in park.
That's great. Can I download you a copy?
You have a Michigan driver's license, yes or no?
That's my license right there.
Okay, that is not a valid Michigan driver's license.
Gonna get the fastest
I'm going to ask you this much as of right now.
get started with the
are you going?
You're going to listen to me first of all,
What facts or
okay? I don't know
information
who
are you alleging to give probable cause to arrest or coerce me?
Listen to me very carefully. Very carefully. Do not obstruct or interfere with my duties right now, okay?
For the record, I am not operating in a for hire capacity for engaging in the form of transportation or other commercial use of highways.
Listen to me.
Please acknowledge that you have been informed. Am I under custodial arrest?
Okay. This is what I'm saying to you.
Am I under custodial arrest?
You're about to be under arrest here in a second.
Patriotic fabrics. Stop.
What is
You're
the
not obeying the law
probable
right now.
cause that
You're
leads you to
obstructing
believe
justice.
that I have committed or are about to commit a crime that authorize you to stop and detain or arrest me?
When you're looking to save on fresh food for your family, bring your shopping
Okay.
list to Kroger.
In order
I'm
to
gonna give you
protect
5
my
seconds to
rights
provide a
and not
license.
waive an error or accident, I wish to clarify my legal standing of the situation. A, you said I am not free to go. I must
to me.
conclude that I'm in
I'll
a
give you 5
custodial
seconds
arrest.
to give me a
and
license.
I
or you
gave
go
it
to
to
jail
you.
for obstructing justice.
I gave it to you.
That is not a license. And you're also interfering right now.
I'm not interfering. I also have to go to
You have a
court.
license. 1,
brought to you by
Do not vandalize my property.
3.
Do not vandalize my property.
4, 5.
Graduation around the corner. Why not give your grad?
I am not.
Open this door.
No.
Open this
I
door.
cannot do that.
You're
I can-
violating the law right now, okay?
I ask you again, do you intend to harm, injure, or steal my property or otherwise punish me for acknowledging my fundamental protective constitutional rights?
that has helped over 1.5 million families.
I'm asking you again, do you continue to intend to deny me my right?
I'm going to bust this window open and take you to jail. if you don't
Where's my
cooperate.
arrest warrant?
Open this door now.
Where's my arrest warrant?
He's giving you a lawful command, sir. Lawful order.
You have no
Your
driver's
statement
license.
is partly false and an outright lie.
Sir.
Are you now
Give me a
trying to
lawful
fabricate
command,
probable
open the
cause
door.
or making false statements into the record and false allegations against me?
Sir, he's giving you a lawful command to open the door. A lawful
Your
command.
statement is
Lawful order.
partially false and an outright lie.
You go to pass-
And now you are trying to fabricate probable cause or making false statements into the record and false allegations against me. I ask you, where is my warrant? Where is my warrant?
Sir.
Where is my
Give me a
warrant?
lawful order.
Where is my warrant? Where is my
A
warrant?
lawful order to provide.
Can I have your name and badge
We
number?
have audio and
Can-
video, sir.
Can I have your name and badge number?
This right here.
Name?
Okay, I can hear everything you can say. You can see what I can say.
I'm asking again, do you intend to deny me my right and falsely imprison me, or am I free to go?
You must provide identification.
I gave it to you.
Are you driving in the state of Michigan? Are you driving in the state of Michigan, sir? Can you answer my question, sir?
These are my papers. These are my papers. These are my papers. These are my papers.
You have identification, sir?
I gave you an ID card.
Do you have identification?
I gave you an ID card.
Do you have identification?
I'm Mormonish. My nationality is Mormonish.
Identification?
My nationality is Mormonish. Do not break my automobile. Oh, damn it! Damn it!
You're out of the
Out of the car right now.
You're under arrest, sir. You're under arrest.
Damn
Let me
it!
see your hands! Let me see your hands!
Okay.
Let me see your fucking hands, man! Don't fucking move!
Don't you
Don't you reach in your pocket, dude! Fucking blow a hole in you! You did too reach in your pocket! I want you to exit this vehicle. Hands, let me see them.
Now you're gonna listen.
Grab that right wrist.
Hang on. Let me find out where the
He reached in his pocket, man. I don't know what the fuck he was grabbing.
pull him out.
You broke my window again.
Watch his pockets, dude. You
broke my window again. Oh, damn! Damn it!
You're going to jail.
Damn, before I could, I'm under what type of cars? Under what type of cars? Show me.
Obstructing, interfering.
Under what
barrier,
authority?
No valid
Under what
driver's
authority?
license.
Under what
State law of
authority?
Michigan.
Under what authority? Damn, you broke my window again. You broke my window again.
Again?
Again.
That was the first time I did it.
I don't.
So obviously you had contact with police before.
I don't.
But that thing works pretty good.
I don't consent to searches and seizures.
Well, right now.
Fourth Amendment requires me.
Lawful order to provide identification. You failed to do so. You're under arrest, sir. Okay. Calm
I
down.
gave you identification. Where's that
Valid
card I
driver's
gave you?
license, sir. You
Where's that card I gave you?
Everything's on audio and video, my man. So you can try to do whatever you got to do, man. We've been through this a million times. People like you.
Okay.
Oh, you can go to court again.
Now
you gotta go to court again.
Thrown out.
Okay.
The case been thrown out. I told you I don't consent.
You gotta. I'll do the hook on the car.
I don't consent to searches and seizures.
So now at this point, it should be fairly obvious that this whole right to travel thing is a bunch of nonsense. So I would assume that after getting his window busted 2 times, Herbie Herb would have probably called his guru, which might have possibly been this guy, and requested a refund. And you know what this guy probably said? Sorry, Herbie Herb, I don't do refunds. The right to travel is something you have to just keep on studying, and sooner or later you'll get it. Moral of the story is, do not listen to fools on the internet talking this right to travel nonsense.